Time for another top 5 list here on the Inside Wisconsin show. As always, presented by Wisconsin's leaders in STEM, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville. UW-Platteville's Environmental Science and Conservation program prepares graduates to lead innovation in sustainability in agriculture and conserve environmental resources right here in Wisconsin. Find out more at uwplatt.edu. Big environmental guy. I love the environment. Wilderness, out in the woods. I'll take you there someday. It's a good time.
Listen, I'm all for it, and I'm all for conserving it, right? I just don't necessarily need to, like I said. And as a kid, I think I climbed every tree in Green Bay like 7 times, at least on the west side. You know, and I went. It's so funny. I went last time I was home and with one of the kids, and we went by John Muir Park, where I was a parkie one summer, and I said to Colin, I said, I used to climb that tree to the top like 3 times a week. And it was, it was an old cedar. It was an evergreen, so you could get up there. And he looked at it, he goes, Dad, that's impossible. Look how high that first branch is. He's like, you got to be telling me a story. I'm like, Colin, remember, it was 45 years ago, right? So the branches were down and you could get on it. And he's like, okay, yeah, that makes more sense. But, so it's like, I'm all right there. I just don't want to go. Once I'm up there, I like to come down. I want to sit up there and think, oh, well, maybe a deer will come by. Whatever. We've had this before.
Yeah, we'll do it again, I'm sure.
But I'm here. I'm not here to, listen, I don't want to burn it all down. I don't want to plow it. I don't want to drill everywhere. I'm good with it.
I know you are. And we're going to conserve it.
I just would prefer to keep my golf ball out of it.
Fair. That's also true. All right. This week's top 5 list. In honor of Leroy Butler, I got thinking about well-known trios in Wisconsin sports during my lifetime and a little bit before my lifetime. So many of these may not be like, oh my God, I can't believe you didn't do this or that. That could happen.
Before your lifetime.
Well, there were 3 people that made it before my lifetime. I know that's that's pretty rare. They're number 5 on my list for what's worth.
It was dark and formless, like Genesis 1:1 hadn't even appeared yet, but that's good. Let's go. What do you got?
So the top 5 trios in Wisconsin sports. Number 5 for me, just because I wasn't able to experience them, Bart Starr, Vince Lombardi, Ray Nitschke. I would say that those are the 3 biggest names from those years. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, I think people, you kind of took one from every country there. There's just so many of them. I guess those would be the 3 seminal names, because some people would say, well, how do you not put, Horning, Taylor, and Starr together? Because they usually kind of went together. Or Horning, McGee, and, something like that. Or on the defense, you could go, Nitschke and Willie Davis and Herb Adderley. So, but I think that hits it. I don't think anybody's going to, you're not going to get any fist fight over that. You're just going to have people who go, well, here's why. They're going to be like Digger Phelps. Digger always would tell you when the tournament was 64 teams, he'd tell you the 8 teams that would need to be in that were snubbed. And you're like, Digger, which teams are you taking out? He goes, well, you can't take anybody out. Those are, they all deserved it. So now Digger had a 72 team bracket. So that's how people would end up with your trio would have 7 people.
Wow. And he obviously knew what he was talking about, because it's all of that and more.
Yeah.
All right. Number 4, back to the Badger basketball teams that we love. Okay. Sam Decker, Frank Kaminsky, and I struggle with the third one, but Nigel Hayes was probably the name that got used the most when those guys were in their prime. Bronson Koenig was on that team and a bunch of others, but I feel like if you're going to pick 3, the trio, Decker, Kaminsky, and Nigel Hayes. Fair?
Yeah, and I was thinking if you go back earlier, there was nobody in the Bill Cofield team that had Claude Stretch Gregory and Wes Matthews, and I don't know who the third would be on that one, Same with some of the GB teams, right? There was a Ripley and an Anderson, and I don't know who the third one might have been right offhand. So there was, I'm not here to fight with any of these. I'm just here to maybe make us think more. That's so I'm fine with that. That's okay.
Number 3 on my list.
Andy Kowski. So it's pre-Andy Kowski, so you're not,
Andy Kowski, Mike Kelly, and that's the hard part, right? Like, who's the third? Mm-hmm. All right. Number 3 on my list of the trios in Wisconsin sports that are most well-known, the Bucks when I was a kid. Ray Allen, the Big Dog, Glenn Robinson, and Sam Cassell. That was, I believe they even called them some sort of the Big 3, right?
Mm-hmm. And then they tried to make it a Big 4, and Anthony Mason came in and it all went to heck.
Yeah, it did. Oh,
it's just sad for George Karl. I like George, but he ruined my team when he brought in Anthony Mason. And what's worse is I really like Anthony Mason. when he was coming up, he became famous with the Knicks, but he kicked around the CBA, and he was in Tulsa for a year as the Beast when they won a CBA championship, right? So I covered him in the early, late 80s, might have been 90, 91. But anyway, he was there. And so I'm like, oh, Anthony Mace is and then Mace ruined the team. Yeah. Terrible.
And everything fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Brett Favre, Reggie White, Leroy Butler. And you said it for a long time. Leroy Butler, like that was Leroy's team. As much as Reggie gets credit and Brett Favre gets credit, that was Leroy's team back behind the scenes. Yeah.
Well, he was the first guy in. Right.
Yeah.
He was the first guy there. No, by far, those are the 3 people that literally changed everything. But they came a little different. One came free agency, one was traded for Brett after a year, and then Leroy was actually drafted by the franchise. And it wasn't me. Remember, it was Ron Wolf who told us that. It said Leroy ran the locker room. That was from the big man himself. But yes, those 3 guys are which is the other reason it's nice that he's in the Hall of Fame, because like those 3 are rightfully what he did for the city was on par with the rest of those 2. And not to mention he was a bang up player, clearly.
That's right. Ron Wolf said that. I know everybody thinks Reggie and Favre, but that was Leroy Butler's team. Wow.
Yeah, or at least that locker room was. He said that, that defensive locker room was his.
We're going to play that back. And number 1 for me in the top 5 trios in Wisconsin sports history, Robin Yount, Paul Molitor, Jim Gantner. I mean, from a Brewers perspective, they don't get bigger. No, come on. That's the one you're going to balk at? I didn't think that was going to be the case at all with you being a Brewers guy. Robin Yount, Paul Molitor, Jim Gantner.
I might want to put Cecil Cooper in there over Gumby. I know the 2 of them served Gantner and Yount played more games together than all those guys. And Molly was there a long time before he went off and played well in Toronto and Minnesota. But I might think in that era that drove that team, Cooper for those 4 or 5 or 6 years was offensively far more of a force, middle of the lineup guy to that one. Just saying that maybe I might have to swap out Gumby. Like him, love him, deserving. I think there's just that Coop might be more deserving.
Okay, slightly augmented. I'll take that.
How's our poll question? Do we have a poll question? We don't have a poll question.
We don't have a poll question. If that would be it, though, we'll put that up on Twitter and see what happens. We'll get like 8 votes.
So you don't think it's Sal Bando, Larry Heisel, and Ted Simmons?
No, I don't. But this might be super top of mind for me. I have a signed baseball behind me from Paul Molitor. I have a signed baseball from Jim Gantner, and I had been chasing and finding and chasing a signed baseball by Robin Yount. My guy, Chris Rohde, came through this past weekend. He brought me a signed Robin Yount baseball on an American League, Major League Baseball, like back when they were in the American League, when those guys were playing. Sure. So super top of mind for me. That's where the trio thing came from. I got all 3. I'm super pumped. If you would like to find me a Cooper, and send it my way.
Yeah, you could do that. I'm trying to think about could you do Hank Aaron and why can't I think of the other guy, not Evans? The third baseman. Come on, John, don't be an idiot. And Lou Burdette, who won 3 games in the World Series. This is killing me. Why can't I think of this? Like, I should have all my Wisconsin credentials taken away. Eddie Matthews, thank you.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry, that took me 20 seconds. Yeah. What about Hank Aaron, Eddie Matthews? What about Spawn and Shane and Pray for Rain? So we need one more in there. That you could go through.
Why didn't you argue that Gorman Thomas should have been in the top 3 with those other guys?
He was great, but if you think of the most productive players on that team, that's the top of the order right there, right? I think it probably was Molly, Yount, Cooper. Then you probably had then Gorman, and then probably then Benji probably hit 5th, right? Because you need a big stick after him. He came after that, and then 6, 7, 8, 9. Then you had Gantner and Charlie Moore and
we're doing this right now. 1982 Milwaukee Brewers roster.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm going to see if I can find the batting order.
This
Bear
may
with
not
us,
make
everybody.
air. This could just be the outtakes, and this could just be for us. What do we got?
I think this is actually amazing. If you can, let me just see if I can find
Don't ask me, by the way, who the Brewers batting order was from last night.
Oh, man. Speaking of, we're going to give our guy Murph a shout out here pretty quick here at some point in this podcast. Can't find it. I looked. I couldn't find the lineup. All the guys that you mentioned, sure enough, they were on the team. Couldn't find the lineup, but we're just going to take your word for it. Anyway, the top 5 trios, in my opinion, in sports history here in Wisconsin.